Recorded at the WNDU 16 News Now studios, this is the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold Notre Dame Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, columnist Tom Noy, Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Baradino, and WNDU's Jackson Neal.
It is Wednesday, October 23rd, another edition of Pot of Gold. He is Jackson, I am Tom, and the guy over there has just now passed through Hartsfield International Airport security, Mike Baradino.
Almost true.
Okay, I start with a joke, but I'll also start with another joke. How about some breaking news? You won't find it on Twitter. You might have to leave, like right now, Mike, to go do your TTP. Yeah. Because we're going to throw some breaking news out at our audience.
Cue it.
Music. I don't know if we have any.
We don't have breaking news music.
Breaking news.
This thing says music. Should we hit it?
Yeah, hit it. Let's see what No, that's not breaking news music. Okay, you ready for the breaking news of the day?
What's the breaking news of the day?
Do you know Notre Dame has a 63% chance of making the college football playoff?
Yeah, that really irritated you, huh?
I was not happy. Okay,
How many times did you hear it?
At least 175. Jackson, you watched the TV copy, right?
Yeah, that was brought up once or twice.
Okay, before we get into Navy, I'll have to go back before we go forward. Watching those of us who did not travel to Atlanta, Jackson was one, I was two, Mike was the only one in the room that did make it to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Had to watch the ESPN broadcast, and Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick, like we said, mentioned about 175 times if Notre Dame would win that game and move to 6-1, their chances of getting to the college football playoff at the end of the year as one of the 12 teams would jump from whatever percent to 63%. And it was on and on and on and on. And then Louis Riddick opined that the reason Marcus Freeman ran the fake punt and ran the fake field goal was because he was trying to run up the score for style points and get into the 12-team playoff, which is totally, unbelievably false. And it was okay because it made my column. I had no idea what I was going to write on Saturday afternoon as the third quarter becomes the fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter is about ready to end, and I'm sitting on my couch at home, and I don't have a column to write, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to write about the knuckleheads at ESPN because they're knuckleheads at ESPN.
Yeah, that was a little too many times hearing that from me. It was like after the third or fourth time, I was like, okay, this is...
Third or fourth? How about 13th or 14th?
And also, too, we got to remember, this is the first year. Where are they getting these percentages from?
Right.
We don't have any data to go off of. Where are these percentages? I don't get that. That's what I don't get.
It was
computers.
They were talking to the computers. If Notre Dame won, it would be 63%. If they lost, it would be down to 20%. Here's how Notre Dame makes the college football playoff, all right? We don't need a computer. We don't need the talking heads at ESPN to say Notre Dame just has to run the table and go 11-1, and then they're making the college football playoff. Short of that, I don't know if they're getting in at 10-2. Although you can't say no because, again, like Jackson said, we've never been through this.
Yeah.
So we have no idea. Right now, it's going to wind up being like Dick Vitale used to do when the NCAA Tournament Selection Sunday rolled around, and he put 185 teams in the 64-team field. Everybody's in. Yeah, that team's going to be in. That team. I'm seeing Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State for the Big Ten. Illinois, people are saying, are going to get in. So nobody has any idea. Just let it all play out, and it'll shuffle itself through with the SEC, with the Big Ten, and with Notre Dame.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. I mean, really, I don't know where they come with the difference between 63 and 20, but I trust their analytics are all, they have a format based on win probability, and they've kind of mapped out the rest of the year, right? Yeah. Well, Notre Dame's 14-point favorite, or maybe in some places 12.5 this week, but that doesn't mean that it's, I don't know how you feed that in terms of probability, but that's what they do. I'm sorry you had a poor experience being bombarded with those numbers. Now, Louis Riddick is a great listen. Most people, you're not allowed to say anything negative about Louis Riddick because he speaks, he should be a GM. Let's just face it. He should be a GM in the NFL. He's interviewed for these jobs. At some point, Mike Mayock talked his way into one of those jobs with the Raiders, and I always enjoyed his broadcast. Let's get him on the show. I like him.
Who, Mike Mayock?
Yeah.
All right, call him on.
Yeah,
let's go.
Let's get him on. He's been quiet lately, but Louis Riddick, just parachuting in for the odd Notre Dame game. Well, that's really hard to get up to speed, and just the pronunciations alone. And just when he's figured out how to say Washouza, now he's got to actually talk about motives behind fake field goals and fake punts and such. And you spent a little time with Marty Biaggi yesterday, and do you think there was anything about style points to all of that?
None. They had seen it on tape, both the fake field goal and the fake punt, and if it presented itself, they were going to do it. Now, it's funny that Louis Riddick went on and on and on and on and on about the fake field goal and how they ran that so they can run up the score. Guess what didn't happen after they faked the field goal?
They didn't score.
They didn't score.
Here's what I think. And I asked Marcus Freeman about the fake field goal after the game because from the context of they're up 17 at that point. There's 4 minutes to go. And you never assume anything, but something that had that many moving parts to it. Yeah, it even involved Jerry Rulo, the walk-on linebacker, having to get his own orange vest and hat so that he could impersonate Tyler Buckner, who is sneaking out there, number 26. So against all of that, and Freeman just like, I'm not saving anything up for anything. We're not guaranteed anything. He didn't talk about meteors or anything, but basically they saw it, they went for it. There was a post, when he hugged Brent Key. I always want to say Brent, the 2-3-letter guys in the ACC, and I think I wrote that in the grades first. But he covered. Marcus has a new thing where he covers his mouth when he does the talking. Sometimes he did that when he was coaching up Jordan Clark. He did some mouth coverage. And then he did that again. Wow, hug. It's tough to do that, to hug and cover. You ever do the hug and cover? I can't even do the bro hug. I screw up the bro hug all the time. I'm the worst at that. The worst. The people like, get out of my space. But he had to do this, and I think he was saying, this is what I think he was saying. I'm sorry about the fake field goal. We're playing Navy next week. They have a real good field goal block unit, and I want to make sure that they're just on their heels. That's all that was. I think that's what it was. I don't think they were. Why would you pull that out otherwise? Then I do think they were. I do think they're always thinking ahead. You don't automatically put that one in the win column, but it was looking good enough that I was just about to head to the express elevator to go downstairs, and there is a value to showing something like that. Because you're not going to be able to do that against Navy. Yeah. But now Navy, those guys off the edge have to just be careful, just in case is that Salerno or Buckner?
Yeah, they're like, look,
Salerno doesn't run like that.
Let's go back to that whole Buckner thing, the knock on ESPN.
Yeah.
We had no idea watching from home that was Tyler Buckner.
Brutal.
None. Yep. It was like, wait, who? And it went from the fake field goal and the camera angle was funny, and then it went right back to 1st and 10. That they were talking about, so we weren't even told that Tyler. Well, oh, by the way, look, that was Tyler Buckner.
They challenged the spot. You got to follow me on Twitter. I had it immediately, but that's the one I was actually paying attention. I've been looking forward to that all year. As soon as I saw when Buckner came back, was assigned a number in June. 26, and then as soon as we saw Chris Salerno being the holder, that was a surprise. Like day one of fall camp, and I was like, Buckner's 26 for a reason.
That's smart.
What was it like?
And I didn't want to spoil it for them and write a TTP at some point. But that's been within my circle, I've been waiting for this.
You hiding information over there?
Wow,
he's hiding information. He's taking care of Notre Dame.
There's no point to spoiling it for the world. But
wow.
But that had to happen. But I was thinking you save it for the second round playoff game.
That's what I'm surprised.
In a bowl.
Let's just get to the playoff game.
That's back to
63% chance now.
All right, enough of that. Let's set the stage.
That sounds good.
As Mike mentioned a few times in our open, Notre Dame 6-1, number 11 in the USA Today what is it? US LMV. I don't know.
Don't mess me up. I have to write it every Sunday. It's LBM.
LBM.
It stands for lumber, but how did you get why isn't it LMB? It's like an abbreviation of lumber.
I'm just going USA Today. Paul.
LBM.
They're number 11.
US LBM.
They've won 5 in a row. Navy is number 24 in the USA Today poll. They're 6-0. It's the third ranked. It's the third game for Notre Dame against a ranked team. Texas A&M to open, Louisville midseason, now Navy. First noon start, second straight game, quote, on the road, although it is yet another neutral site. Second straight game in an NFL venue. The Irish have won 5 straight. And Jackson, what's the biggest challenge of playing Navy? And don't tell me the option.
Well, I mean, I think it's their great quarterback.
Even though it's the option.
Yeah, it's the well. I was gonna say, well, besides the option, I guess the thing is gonna be their great quarterback, Blake Horvath. It's just playing much better than Navy quarterbacks recently, and it's just a team like when you look at this Navy team, just they've beaten everyone. They beat them pretty bad. They haven't had too much of a test this year, but they've kind of passed with flying colors. I just think, you just look at it's Navy. It's just it's gonna be a weird team to play because of that option, even though they told me not to say it.
It's funny that you said they haven't been tested yet because they've played 6 games, and one of those games was against your alma mater.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Temple's not very good. 38-11. Navy beats Temple.
I watched that game. That was. I turned it off pretty quick. That was.
Navy is averaging 44.8 points per game. I think that is top 4 in the nation. And they do it with rushing, 274 yards a game. I think that's 3rd. But they also pass it, like we talked about Blake Horvath. What's Blake Horvath's nickname?
Heisman. Well, he goes by Horvath, I think. But Heisman Horvath. It's Horvath's the local pronunciation. But he's over. He's from the Columbus area. He's from Hilliard, Ohio.
He is. Yeah. Did not have a scholarship offer. He ran the option in high school. Did not have a scholarship offer from a Division I school. It was only Division II schools. So he winds up at Navy. Had only played in 4 games before this year and only made 1 start. He's a pretty good quarterback because he can also throw it, averaging about 12 passes a game, but I think it's like 150 yards per game. So it's not just let the quarterback keep it or give it to the fullback for a dive. They'll put it in the air. So this Notre Dame secondary, they're going to have to be on it on Saturday.
Yes, and that's a strength of the team. Still, I think we can still call it a strength pass defense, a strength without Benjamin Morrison part of the process. That tells you how good they were and how quickly they got Mike Mickens got Leonard Moore up to speed because he had a fine game at Georgia Tech. There was one explosive, though, as they call it, one deep ball that I asked him about after the game, and he gave a fine answer about that. But, it's you have to move right on to the next play, but I think he'll learn from it. Notre Dame has 9 interceptions on the year, and Xavier Watts and Don Schuler added to their total. Those 2 safeties have 5 combined. Safety so hugely important when you play the option-type teams, triple option. So both this one and the Army game later, can't look ahead, but that Army game later, there's going to be an inordinate burden on the safeties to not get sucked up too far. That's the thing. You got to support, and then boom, you screw it up one time over your head, and or some fullbacks running by you. You see that some guy, some Fofana or something, and then everybody's like, what happened? Navy. The other thing they do is they take the ball away.
Yes,
they're really good at this. They're they also have ball disruption drills apparently. And it'll serve them well in their future careers. But they're plus 12, guys. They're plus 12. That's second only to James Madison in the country. And Notre Dame is plus 4 turnover margin. So even in all this good stuff going on and all the takeaway attempts, Notre Dame and of course Riley Leonard had his first interception since the NIU game. So they're going that turnover margin and red zone is always important. But these are 2 of the top 13 red zone teams and from all angles, offense, defense, both sides. Something's got to give, as we titled our TTP.
Points off turnovers this year. Navy is outscoring its opposition. Points off turnovers, 73-7.
Good stat.
So they
writing that down.
They take the ball away and they don't give the ball away. So it's always a tricky situation to play against Navy. Like we said, it's not your typical Navy offense because they can throw together the 12, 13, 14 play drive, but this Navy offense is scoring quick and they're scoring a lot of points.
I think the thing too that gives them the flexibility of they can get ahead and shorten the game if and of course Notre Dame has made a nasty habit of falling behind 7-0.
Well,
Can't
that's
do that.
You
Can't do
fall
that
behind.
Saturday.
You're going to have limited possessions to begin with. Marcus Freeman thought the possessions were going to be limited against Georgia Tech. Well, he knows even more so. It's a compressed game. That time of possession can get away from you. But if Notre Dame were to jump out double digits, Navy can climb back in it. Now, it did it 2 years ago with a very different offense and still came back when Drew Pine was just freezing in the second half against the zero
quarter
blitz.
in Baltimore. What the heck?
It was
that?
one of the weirdest, and so
It
that
was.
ended up being a 3-point game and one of those. But that could have gotten away. Navy can do that legit. It can play modern ball if it needs to.
Okay, on Tuesday when we met with Al Golden, how long did we have to wait before he talked about eye discipline?
Well, I love that term. First of all,
I know that's why I said it.
I love it.
You're big on eye discipline.
I worked it into a question. Because I struggle with it every day. I don't want to get caught in my eyes, in the backfield and or looking into the future. And now you're looking right at me, and look at Jackson's eye. Jackson has tremendous eye discipline. I don't know if the viewers can see this.
It's a TV thing.
It's a
TV thing.
Because yes, he just locks in. That's good. Although
they can
say. If I do something like this and I pitch it to Tom,
then I gotta look over there. Yeah.
What then? And you're like, help me, Savior. But
I want to talk about eye discipline on our game day segment, because I'm going to be like, now what camera?
There we go.
It's all eye discipline. Right? It's right there. It's right there for us.
So that's kind of what it's like to be a safety or a linebacker. Or a corner, again, and that's where Leonard Moore he's good at run support. That's going to be helpful here. He's going to have to maintain that. But Al Golden, your question was how. Well, he used eye discipline a few times, or there's other ways to say it. You got to be good with your eyes. You got to. My favorite one, and I've got to bring it up with Don Schuler. I have a little TTP on Don Schuler going back home to New Jersey, but at SouthBendTribune.com. But remember when Prince Kali, now at Vanderbilt, nice fella, he had the game of his life. Finally had a big game against Navy, and then they brought him in. He got to talk, and he was really good. And one of the things he said was he came in there with acronyms. I'm trying to remember. EAT was the acronym, and it was his eyes, and then something else, and then T. But
so you got one.
Well, that's a heck of an acronym you got there, Mike.
I'll have to look it up. But
it's EAT and A and something T.
Here's the thing. He said, we talked all week, and Al Golden was the coordinator then too. Talked all week. Don't get caught up in the trash. There's a lot of trash. Just don't mess with it. And I think the trash, it's not an insult of the United States Naval Academy enrollees and future protectors of our freedom. It's more about all of this stuff, There's it's a legerdemain, and that trash it's easier to spell.
That is a good point. Yeah,
insane.
As we go into the Navy game, Notre Dame is, knock on wood, relatively healthy. The injury list this week was 2 players deep. Mitch Jeter, questionable. Billy Schroff remains to be seen. It sounds like they may want to roll Billy Schroff out to play in some special team situations and see how his ankle holds up, and then give him the bye week to get even healthier and come back against Florida State on November 9th. So it's Mitch Jeter, it's Billy Schroff, only 2 players, which means Notre Dame did not suffer any significant injuries that we know of against Georgia Tech. Let's hope they come out of this Navy game with only Billy Schroff and Mitch Jeter on the injury list as well.
No, I don't think.
Which is really going to be really hard to happen.
It is, because they've done away with the cut block,
right.
But Navy still, maximum effort every play,
yep.
And more physical than people would expect. Certainly, that's what discipline. Not just eye discipline with them; it's the whole thing.
Discipline life.
Even the midshipmen marching out and doing all their stuff. But I think I get a sense that Shroud kind of broke down some of the Pro Football Focus numbers and look back at if we had to vote on this, how would you reintegrate Billy Shroud? Is it wise to bring him back at his spot right now at right guard and move Spindler to left guard, or have it, but whoever has the best week of practice, Spindler and Sam Pendleton, who's been kind of fading I think it's fair to say he won that job behind closed doors, and then what we've been able to see has been spotty, but Spindler hasn't been perfect either. He had a dominant game against Stanford, struggled a couple other times, a lot more experience. I get the sense that they're going to play the Schrouth card this week, Tom. I get that sense. He's going to be in there because
in the rotation. Yeah.
He's going to
start
right guard. I think he starts
Look at
the game.
you. Wow.
Well, maybe
there's
not
a hot take right there.
Maybe not even right guard. I think they're going to. I think it's just they've already had it. Mike Denbrock talked about how they did get Spindler worked into the mix in their practice last week, and then he was able to do a little stuff. Marcus Freeman had said during the bye week, but going back to that, but. I think he's their best. You see their best. Can we say? I mean, Emil Wagner, you've written about really having a fine year, but when they talk about what Schrouth can be at his best and what he's already shown them in a fairly small sample, I think it's 6 total starts. He's a mover. He's a road grader.
Left guard, center, right guard. Billy Schrouth's their best interior lineman.
Yeah, and they get hurt up the middle, and so. Right. If Navy's going to do that blitz, they're sending zero. If you want to discourage zero blitz stuff, you just make sure that you are sound up the middle. And Sam Pendleton's been a little leaky at times. He's got such a nice future, but you got to go with your best. And Navy, unbeaten for a reason.
Let's close the book on Navy here. We'll run through a little history. Notre Dame leads the all-time series 82-13-1. The Irish are 49-8-1 at neutral site games, as this one will be. Last home win against Navy was 2001, 34-6. The Irish have won 6 in a row and 11 of 12. Last Notre Dame win against Navy last year, Dublin, 2023, 42-3. And the last Navy win, Jacksonville, Florida, 28-27. In 2000-something, I don't have the
16.
year. 2016.
Everything went wrong in 16.
Everything that could go wrong in 2016 did. So that closes the book on Navy. We'll hit very quickly some Irish Rewind. Yeah, those pesky Notre Dame Irish trying to run up the score on Georgia Tech, 31-13 in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The Irish trailed early 7-0, scored 31 unanswered points, and in the process, as we said, improved their chances in the college football playoff to 63%. Other than the game, what's that stadium like, Mike Bird, With the roof open. It's a nice place.
Yeah, I didn't even know they could do that. But going into it.
Did you watch them? Were you there early enough to see them open the roof? No?
Well, it was one of those where I was tweeting a picture of the roof closed, and just kind of one of those workplace for the day, and then that's when they were doing it, and so I post that within 5 seconds, things open. So now I got to go back and take another picture
before and after.
And so it's bad eye discipline.
Bad eye. You should have.
He didn't follow EAT, whatever the heck EAT means.
Nice build. I'm going to look that up. Nice building, real nice building, but it's still just a building. A lot of empty seats.
Yes.
You might say, I don't know if they show this on television, but the upper deck had a lot of empty seats, and I think I checked StubHub before. I like to get a sense of the buzz, and I think you could get a ticket the morning of for like $20, and I'm sure that went down because it was a lot of empties, and I'm thinking, geez, maybe that Navy-Jacksonville game in Jacksonville was the last time you had this many opportunities to go see a Notre Dame game. And so Atlanta, I was a little disappointed, I guess, in the Subway alumni of Atlanta. I thought there'd be a lot stronger Notre Dame presence. And in fact, when they would start the Let's Go Irish chants, they would be booed down pretty easily by a middling. Or I guess the kids. The kid. It's so confusing this week, especially everybody. All you kids,
us
you
kids,
young people say mid.
Just mid. Yeah. It's mid. It's like mid. It's like not good.
Yeah,
it's like
mediocre.
Mediocre, basically, is what I would do.
We like mediocre.
We say meh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's your
mid is that's like a 2024. I feels like that's all new. But this week, they call the Navy guys the mids.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to say mids. Don't say mids. It's midshipmen. Don't say mids.
Geez, I thought I saw that even on their I thought I even saw that on their official Twitter account.
Mids?
That's a pejorative.
That was something.
That's fighting words.
Like,
that'll get them.
They'll drop. You'll have drop and give them 20.
That'll go over like a drunken sailor in Times Square. That's not good. Not a good idea.
All right, back to Georgia Tech. Jackson, the defense we knew was going to dominate the offense. Hit and miss here and there. Riley Leonard, the bad pick, but he comes back. The offense looks good. But how about those special teams?
Yeah, I mean that's the biggest storyline coming out of this. The special teams we talked about earlier, but I get they saw it on film and everything. Still, just a little bit of surprise that that Tyler Buckner play that they ran that in that moment. I thought that was such a smart idea having the same numbers. So I was just surprised they ran it then against Georgia Tech. But still, it was effective.
You think when Tyler Buckner came back, Marcus Freeman said, "I promise you can run a fake punt sometime in the year"?
I think we all kind of figured that
I had to do something, right?
No, he didn't. He didn't owe Tyler Buckner a fake punt.
The other thing,
a fake field goal.
No, he didn't owe him anything. But your mind starts going. I mean, that's what even Biaggi said. As soon as Freeman poked his head in the office and told all the assistants, "Hey, Tyler Buckner's coming back," they're thinking, "Well, how are we going to use him?"
Yeah.
The reverse. With imagine a little variation now. They've already shown the thing with Jeremiah Love coming around on the what do we call that? What are you calling that? How do you refer to that?
How do you refer?
What is that? Coach Dan Casey said touch pass,
jet flip. I don't know.
Yeah, jet. But imagine Buckner being the gunner instead of Love, and it ends up with a pass.
You throw a pass.
You could do certainly a reverse and then double reverse pass, whatever. The door is wide open, but not this week because Navy's too smart. This is the kind of thing you might do if you're sluggish against Virginia.
Yeah.
So Notre Dame runs it to 5 straight wins, 31-13 over Georgia Tech. They now move on to Navy. We now move on, Jackson, to a pot of old.
Pot of old. Let's get it.
This one was a tough one for me because nothing really fit. There wasn't a Navy game that jumped out that said you got to have it and you got to go with that. So I went with the old anniversary game, which will be now, let me do my math. They told me there was not going to be any math. 22 years ago, October 26th, 2002, Notre Dame goes into Doak Campbell Stadium as the 6th-ranked team in the country against number 11 Florida State. It's Notre Dame 34, Florida State 24. The Irish led by quarterback Carlisle Holiday.
All right.
Carlisle Holiday? Future wide receiver Carlisle Holiday hits Arnaz Battle with a 65-yard touchdown pass 2 minutes into the game, and the Irish are rolling, although the game's tied at 10 at halftime. The Irish go 17 unanswered in the third quarter, finish with 418 total yards, 185 yards passing. Ryan Grant runs for 94 yards and 2 touchdowns. The aforementioned Carlisle Holiday, 13 of 25 for 185 yards and 2 scores. And your leading tackler that day in Tallahassee, Glenn Earl, with 11 total stops. Linebacker Courtney Watson with 10. Jackson, you have any recollection of this game?
I do not.
Good.
I do not.
What was that, 2002?
It was 2002, 22 years ago Saturday. Once Notre Dame beats Florida State, it was written by the Associated Press down in Tallahassee that the Irish were setting themselves up to possibly win a national championship. And guess what happened the next week? It was like 1993 all over again. They beat Florida State. They beat a ranked Florida State team. Everybody started talking about a national championship. They're off to their best start since that 1993 season. They come home. They play Boston College. And they forget to pack the offense. They lose 14-7. I believe that was a green jersey game. So that national championship chase went right out the window. Notre Dame that season also winds up losing to USC out in Los Angeles, and then lost in Jacksonville against North Carolina State in the Gator Bowl. So that is our pot of old. October 26th, 2002, Notre Dame 34, Florida State 24.
With the magic of the sports reference, I've been trying to get to this. Where was Mike on October 26th, 2002? I can't remember. I looked it up. I know exactly where I was. Classic.
Well, yeah, because you looked it
the
up.
The World Series, I was in Anaheim, and it was a game that you guys remember. Do you remember?
we don't
Stop
even,
looking at me and say, "Do you remember?"
anything that happens before 2010, we were like, yeah, don't even involve Jackson.
Notre Dame and Florida. I don't know if did you say that was a night game or day game?
It was a day game.
Yeah.
Day game.
So that night was the game where Dusty Baker came out to take Russ Ortiz out of Game 6 of a World Series. That Barry Bonds is finally going to win a World Series, and he lets Russ Ortiz, the forgotten Russ Ortiz, walk off with the ball. And that never happens in the baseball. You're not supposed to walk off with the ball. You give the ball to the manager. He brings in the reliever.
Bad
he
karma.
let Russ walk off with the commemorative ball because he had pitched 6 1/3. So he pitched so well. Barry Bonds is out there in left field, just seething, waiting to not talk to anybody afterwards. And there was a clinching possibility, and everybody in that Anaheim dugout noticed, and crazy people like Scott Spezio and Darren Erstad, and they put up 3 runs in the 7th, 3 runs in the 8th. They came back, and Dusty Baker had to wait about 2 more decades to get his his first championship with Houston, and Barry Bonds never won one. That's as close as he got, and that's what was happening on October 26th in my life.
There you go.
2022.
Covering
or
baseball,
2002.
And now he's here talking Navy and Notre Dame. So
Yeah,
There
how
you
about
go.
that? Awesome.
how about
Blessed.
I see.
Hashtag blessed.
We have a guest, so let's go to our guest spotlight. Guest spotlight. It's writers. Sorry, Jackson. It's writers talking writers. We bring in Don Doxey, author of Elmer Layden, Notre Dame's Quiet Hero. Don has spent 30 plus years working as a sports writer in Iowa, 49 years as a sports writer and a columnist, author of 5 books. Elmer Layden, Notre Dame's Quiet Hero. Don, what's happening today, my man?
Not too much. Just hanging out. I've been retired for about 3 years, so I get plenty of time on my hands here. So.
Plenty of time to talk and plenty of time to write, too?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. I had all these books that I wanted to write all these years, and finally getting a chance to write them now, including the one about Elmer Layden. So.
Oh, okay, so you have all these books. What was it about Elmer Layden, other than the fact that he was a Davenport, Iowa native, that said, that's a book that I want to write? I'm jumping in with both feet with Elmer Layden.
Well, we have a Quad City Sports Hall of Fame here, and he was one of the original 5 inductees back in 1987, and I wrote stories about him then and just kind of became intrigued with him and his story. And, he's more than just, I almost regret giving the book that title because he's more than just a Notre Dame guy. He did all sorts of other things. He was an innovator as the head coach at Duquesne. He later became the first full-time commissioner of the NFL. So he's a really interesting guy with a very diverse background in football.
When you're writing about somebody who's no longer with us, how do you go about researching and interviewing people that were around when Elmer Layden was around playing football for Notre Dame?
Well, it's not easy, but it's really fun. I mean, you can look at newspaper articles and everything, but Layden also has 7 surviving grandchildren who were a great resource for me, a couple in particular, and had all sorts of memories of him and pointed me in some really good directions of places I could go. So it wasn't so much a lot of interviews, but a lot of sifting through newspapers, old clippings, and obviously a lot was written about him. So, but yeah, I mean, that's a lot of what it was. It's just looking at newspapers.com and going through that and finding things.
The one path that this book took you down that you didn't expect, what was it?
The years he played at Notre Dame in the 20s and coached at Notre Dame in the 30s. In between, he was the head coach at Duquesne for 7 years and just did amazing things. I mean, the signals that officials use these days to signal penalties, first downs, all that, he came up with that. I mean, he really pushed for those to be implemented into the game in the late 20s. And you think of how far-reaching that is. I had no idea about any of that. And it was very well documented in the Pittsburgh newspapers at that time. But that's something I stumbled across that I just didn't expect at all.
Including a legal procedure? You came up with that? I love
yeah,
that.
That's your favorite one?
Far-reaching. It is. I think so. Also, did he come up with safety?
I like that one. That's my
Safety
favorite
dance.
one.
Safety was in there. There was only 10 of them in the beginning, and now, of course, there's I don't know how many different things there are now. There's probably 30 now.
Yeah,
But,
giving them the business.
That's a Ben Dreith call.
It's just a shame he couldn't have. Should have copyrighted him. He should have somehow. His grandchildren should be getting 12 cents every time there's an announcement of one of these penalties.
Exactly.
So Don Doxey, tell us about the Four Horsemen, because October 18th was the 100th anniversary. Notre Dame making a trip back to the other side of the river this week to play Navy in the Meadowlands. But we'll go back next month and play Army in Yankee Stadium. Of course, that game in 24 was at the Polo Grounds, right? So tell us, remind the folks here, maybe you could, because I haven't read the whole book, but reading, it's great. I recommend everyone to get it. Any Notre Dame fan's going to enjoy it, or even if you hate them. But what I like there is you sometimes will present the disparities, the discrepancies in the historical record. Even with the Four Horsemen, sometimes you had to find yourself correcting the record, or just some things we'll never know. Who was it who did that in the Rose Bowl? It was that kind of thing against Stanford. Who really did that? And what's something about the Four Horsemen experience, that the whole photo shoot, George Strickler? Tell folks about George Strickler.
George Strickler was a student publicist at Notre Dame at the time, and working for Rockne and helping to publicize the team and get word out about him and everything. And after they had this big game against Army that Grantland Rice wrote about on October 18th of 1924, he got the four of them together supposedly on the Monday after that game and mounted them on horseback and had this photo taken that was distributed worldwide. Strickler got royalties on that photo every time it was used in a newspaper or somewhere, and it paid for education at Notre Dame, I guess. But and he later became very famous as the sports editor of the Chicago Tribune. But that photo really made sure that this nickname stuck, that they were known as the Four Horsemen. But there's all sorts of different. Supposedly that happened the Monday after the game. Some people said it happened much later. There's just all sorts of discrepancies in the facts. And as you mentioned, in games itself, you'd read one newspaper account that this guy got this interception in this game, and somebody else would credit it to somebody else, and it was just it was really difficult to nail down what happened in some cases because there was so many discrepancies in newspaper accounts.
And obviously we can't go back and check the video. So although later,
no video replay.
we're just a few years away from some of those Rockne things that recreating his speeches, but we don't have any. There is no video of the Rose Bowl against Stanford, for instance, anywhere. We just missed it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, and Layden had 2 pick sixes in that Rose Bowl game.
Yeah.
And you read the stories, and one of them would have 79 yards, and someone else would say 67 yards, and someone else would say 71 yards. They must not have had a very good view from the press box in those days, I guess, because the discrepancies are all over the place.
Well, not to disparage the great Grantland Rice, but the fact is, and you recounted again in your book, and once and for all, that's George Strickler's concept, at least it sounds like, because Strickler, a 20-year-old sophomore at the time at Notre Dame, is walking through the press box. I believe you wrote that Rockne sent him up there to see what the mood was at halftime, and he had just seen a few days earlier Rudolph Valentino in a movie called The Four Horsemen, and he just kind of says, yeah, the guy, that famed backfield was already, those 4 guys were already significant, and I think you said that the Four Horsemen, maybe that name had been tossed out. Rice himself had used that sort of lead or mentioned the Four Horsemen in the past in other realms. Is that right? But Strickler that day said, yeah, kind of like the Four Horsemen. And then next thing you know, in terms of view, to be outlined against a blue-gray sky in October, Rice would have had to write that flat on his back. He would have been watching the game subterranean, but I don't think they had those seats back then. It would have been a fun place to watch it.
Yeah, the story is that Strickler pitched that idea to like 4 different writers. It wasn't just Rice. Rice happens to be the one who picked it up and used it in his story the next day. And, it's fortunate that all the other writers that he pitched it to didn't use it. But, I'm not sure if Rice had used it before, but it definitely was suggested by Strickler.
Paul Gallico, what was his lead that day? He was. That's who Frank DeFord always said was Paul Gallico was his favorite from that time, I believe. But anyway, enough about me. Jackson's got something from today.
So actually, I don't have something from today. I have some cool video. You guys were talking about the Rose Bowl 1925 and talk about no video.
Yeah.
We got something here. So this is something that we have gotten. We have here at WNDU just through some archives. This is some footage that we do have from the 1925 Rose Bowl between Notre Dame and Stanford. It's you can see just from the game, it's just a lot different. We go through shots of the crowd and everything like that, but
sweet.
Yeah, it's
Don, look at this. Can you see this?
Never seen this before, and what's amazing to me, it was blazing hot that day. I mean, it was in the 90s, and everybody I saw in there was wearing long sleeves, but
yeah, so that was just some stuff. We have like a couple clips of that, just some old stuff. But I guess like looking at that and just looking back at college football, I mean, the Four Horsemen was such a national phenomenon. Was that something normal for college football back then? Was college football that much of a national pastime to the point of like these players becoming that famous, or was the Four Horsemen kind of some of the first guys that did that?
It was starting to get to that point. I think after World War I, the country was kind of looking for things to grab onto as diversions. And 1924 actually is also the year that Red Grange became a big national name too. So, it was just kind of the very roots of college football when it was really starting to blow up and become a national obsession. Much bigger than pro football was at that time, as a matter of fact.
Don, as you're researching your book on Elmer Layden, were you able to get to campus here and do some research on site?
Several times, yeah. And then the archives there were just fantastic. I mean, the people I dealt with at Notre Dame, I got there multiple times over the course of several years. As a sports writer, for covering Iowa Hawkeyes, I very often was going to Michigan or Michigan State or somewhere to cover a game, and I very often would go a day ahead and stop in at South Bend and on my way there and do some research. So I did this over a course of very many years, but I got to Notre Dame several times.
Okay, so from start to finish, how long did this book take?
15 years. I mean, it's one of those things where over the course of maybe 20 years, I was just throwing things in the file and stuff, stashing them away. And then, when I retired in 2021 as a sports writer, I pulled out all that stuff and it was pretty easy to cobble it together with some additional research and formulate it into the book. So it's really hard to say how long it took. The actual writing of it took a couple of months, but after 20 years of collecting stuff.
How about, I love this story. I'm going to ask Don to tell this one.
Mike's reading the book over.
I'm just page 90.
He's got it earmarked.
I'm going right to page 90 because this has shock value. Just imagine this, and then I'm going to go to another one with shock value. But Don's going to tell it. The Four Horsemen had a chance to ride again after their eligibility was up, and it was through a man named Jimmy Conzelman. And what's that story? And involved a vaudeville act.
I'm trying to remember all of that. It was right after their careers ended in the spring
page
of
90.
For those of you following at home,
everyone get the text.
Read along.
The text. Well, basically,
you have to understand. I'm old, and
you're on to the next book.
2 years ago, I've forgotten most of it.
You're on to the next book. It's right there in your book, Don, and it says. Okay.
Maybe Don. Maybe we should just interview Mike.
Yeah, let's
talk to Mike about it.
I read it with my own eyes, and But basically, he invited. This is from Don Doxey's book, page 90. This is Jimmy Conzelman invited the four horsemen, to Chicago during spring break. This is after the Rose Bowl, to audition for some theatrical agents, and found that Harry Stoldrayer had an excellent singing voice, while Crowley could do a respectable clog dance, as well as being very capable of doing a comic monologue. But Elmer Layden and Don Miller couldn't do much of anything. So I'm wondering, how did the grandchildren, did they corroborate that Grandpa couldn't do much of anything?
And Layden ended up vetoing the whole thing on moral grounds because it involves some scantily clad girls or something, the Rockettes, something like that. I can't remember now. But the other three were willing to go along with it, but Layden didn't want to do it, so the whole thing fell through.
And then the other shock value story, I'd say, for Jackson, imagine, and you alluded to it.
What page?
Well, it's later on. But the idea that, imagine Marcus Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Doing pretty well on the verge of getting right now, pretty close to a national title, but not quite there. No statue yet. Just dropping it all because he felt unappreciated, or was getting kind of some whispers that maybe they were looking around to go get another coach, and go and becoming commissioner of the NFL.
That's crazy to think about.
And that's the Frank Leahy before Leahy could get here. I'll let Don tell the story.
Well, yeah, and I think what you're talking about is, Layden had won almost 80% of his games in 7 years at Notre Dame. But a year before he left to become commissioner of the NFL, they were looking to replace him already. I think that's probably what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah,
the other thing, Layden was like handcuffed as the head coach at Notre Dame. They wouldn't let him leave campus to recruit anybody. If a player wanted to come to Notre Dame, he had to come to Notre Dame to talk to Layden. Layden couldn't go to them. And the other thing is they had the academic standards for football players were higher than they were for regular students at Notre Dame. It's like they did everything they could to handcuff him and make his job more difficult. And he still won almost 80% of his games. And then they did end up sort of pushing him out the door. But and he landed as the first commissioner of the NFL. But
which was not, it was not, as you laid out very well. The NFL at that time was soon to have several rival leagues, and they actually go get Jimmy Crowley to also be the commissioner of the rival AAFC, what Paul Brown was part of, and got that going. And imagine that. That's how big the Four Horsemen were, that two of them would go and become commissioners of the rival pro leagues.
Exactly, yes. And they were on very friendly terms, but the two leagues were not at all. And in fact, I think Crowley got pushed out of that job because he was too friendly with Layden or something. But it speaks to how popular these guys were and how well known they were.
Don, what's your next book? Do you know?
I've got a couple. I've got one that'll be out next year about the Tri-City Blackhawks, who were a team that played here in the Quad Cities and were an original member of the NBA. Just for a couple of years. And in their first year in the NBA, their head coach was Red Auerbach. And that franchise remains in existence today as the Atlanta Hawks. So it's a team that only lasted for 5 years, but had a very interesting and entertaining 5 years before they went out. So
I'm wondering, based on this camera shot, it could just be the camera shot, but one of Don's other books, and this is, and geez, they go like that. You got to
figure that.
So the other bad eye discipline. We're talking eye discipline. But your 2023 book, How Tall Are You? The Pros and Cons of Exceptional Height. This is a tremendous idea. Don, how tall are you?
I'm just 7'10". 6'7".
6'7".
6'7". Jeez.
I have to tell people that almost every day. It's a daily question. How tall are you? And I can tell people I'm 7'1", and they believe it. So
how's the weather up there?
I change the question, the answer day to day. Maybe today I'll say I'm 6'10", and they'll believe it. So.
Yeah.
What's your wingspan? You have the wingspan of a. They love that. But you talk. They never ask us what's your wingspan, shorty? That's always a tall guy.
No, I don't know what my wingspan is, but
Well, let's go. Come on, get a measure.
Other
I get
than
a tape measure and my wife measure me here.
There you go.
other than having Mike hold it up in front of the camera, if people want to see Elmer Layden, Notre Dame's Quiet Hero, where would you like to direct them if they want to get a copy of this book?
Well, you can buy it from almost any bookseller, whether it's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, online. You can get it pretty much anywhere. I don't know of any online bookseller that doesn't have it right now. So it's not in many bookstores or anything like that. But if you go online, you should have no problem finding it, I think.
There you go, Don. We appreciate the time. Thanks for stopping by and talking. Elmer Layden, Notre Dame's Quiet Hero.
It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it.
You got it. Have a great day.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Okay, this is called Speak Up, but for Mike, it's a weekly thing called Listen Up, because by the time I get to the end of the question, he has no idea what I'm talking about. So I'll let either the two of you, whoever listens better, will be able to answer the question. This comes from Paul Latino, a longtime listener, reader.
Thanks, Paul.
Whatnot. Season ticket holder for Notre Dame home games at Notre Dame Stadium. He was in Atlanta this past weekend, and Paul Latino continues to be mystified as to why the passing game continues to have no vertical component. All the passes are short outs that are becoming easier to defend. The one vertical pass that Riley Leonard threw looked like it was intended for the Georgia Tech defender. Can you please elaborate on what's going on with the Notre Dame passing game? Gentlemen.
Jackson?
You want me to go first on this one?
Sure.
Because he's not listening.
I knew it. I think, that one throw by Leonard, the interception, that was not good. But I think the thing that I would take away from it more so is that the way he responded to that, coming back after the interception, still being incredibly efficient, still completing his throws. But you're right, there still isn't that downfield element right now. I don't know if they're going to necessarily need that the rest of the way for the regular season, at least. I think the running game's been strong enough. They have enough playmakers on the outside if they can just get the ball to them quickly. But I think it just comes down to probably lack of confidence in Riley Leonard's downfield accuracy. That's probably why it's not opened up vertically. I think that's what it just comes down to, most likely.
It's not just the accuracy, I'd say. And Riley himself has put this out there a couple of times. We've heard him say bad read.
Yeah.
Bad eyes, too, he said. But bad read. And it happened again after the Georgia Tech game. Now, in his defense, he's not going to throw a teammate under. But I think Bo Collins would own up to the idea that he might have given up on that ball a little soon. He pulled up a little bit on it, and that's why it was such an easy interception. But it was Bo Collins who had a 53-yard gain against Stanford, probably the best deep ball that Leonard has connected on as a Notre Dame quarterback, and that was a thing of beauty. But it was 35-7 at that point, so not really under game pressure, but hey, it counts, and I think he can do it. But it's a matter of staying in the pocket long enough. Mm-hmm. These are all factors against have a vertical passing game. You got to stand in, be comfortable taking that hit a split second after you release it. Mm-hmm. He doesn't do that a lot, and you have to be able to read it like that, and then you have to have I think he has the arm strength, but you got to trust that you have the arm strength when you're about to get hit, and all those things we haven't seen enough.
I think with the arm strength, it's like there's moments where he has the obvious arm strength, but there'll be moments where he'll overthrow it or then underthrow it. I just feel like that he has the strength, but doesn't know how to properly use it at points.
This question about Riley Leonard in Week 7 is the same answer that I have in Riley Leonard in Week 1, and that goes back to when you have an athlete who happens to play quarterback and not a quarterback who happens to be an athlete. This is what you're going to get from Riley Leonard. You're going to get maybe a good throw here, maybe a bad throw there, but because he knows he can run and he can tuck it and go, and he's talked about it even this year where he said earlier when he didn't like a call that Mike Denbrock sent in, he would call the play, but he will also just take off and run because he didn't want to make this throw or make that throw. It's a clunky type of offense that we're going to see because Riley Leonard is not your traditional, I'm just going to drop back in the pocket and I'm going to wait, and then the last second before I get hit, I'm going to find this guy going up the seam. So It's a situation of an athlete who's playing quarterback instead of a quarterback who happens to be an athlete. We're not going to see Riley Leonard play that true position as a quarterback the rest of the season.
And I think something after the Great House touchdown against Louisville, he mentioned one thing he said kind of jokingly, but it's just always stuck out to me. Almost gets more nervous when those guys are really open. Remember when he said that?
Because he didn't want to screw it up.
Yeah, it freaks him out, and that just I don't know. It's just a mindset thing to me. Yeah.
That's right. That made sense. That's the same thing he's a basketball guy in the background, and I'm sure he preferred somebody trying to close him out on the three rather than just be wide open. And everybody's like, "Well, go ahead, make it. It's right there, make it."
Just a head fake.
Yeah, and so I don't know that I am willing. I'm not willing to say that we're not going to see.
I am.
They're working on it. They're working on it. I mean, it sounds like they get up early. We also learned, I think, in that same session that Mike Denbrock and Riley Leonard enjoy bagels early, or bagels and coffee. Yep. And that traditionally, you put bagels, coffee, a guy with 4 decades calling plays, and then a quarterback with that kind of athletic ability. There's a learning curve, and they're getting to it. But in the meantime, first guy who's open, hit him in stride. You'd like to see more of that, so they don't have to reach back behind him. Hit these water bugs in stride, and more Jeremiah Love in a variety of ways. They did just more of that, and it should be fine.
It's a learning curve, but look out that window there. The leaves are turning, man. It's getting late.
Yeah.
It's getting late. November's coming.
Well, the season goes to January 20th, and it ends up.
You hope it goes to January 20th.
The college football season goes till January 20th.
We don't know if Notre Dame's season will go to January 20th.
We don't know if Notre Dame will end it back at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but that's where the champion will be crowned.
There you go. Probably with a closed roof.
I'm not predicting that championship, but I think they get to the Final Four. I said that before the year.
You did say that, and you're going to stick by that.
I am. I see it. It's just setting up very nicely.
It's only because you don't want to have to go cover Notre Dame hockey when the football season's over. That's why.
It's another story. Why. Nothing against it. I just don't know. I don't know what I'm looking at.
All right, let's wrap this bad boy up, and let's go pot of bold. Easiest segment of the show. Give me one hot take, one score prediction. Who wants to go first?
Mike? I went first to answer Speak Up. You want to?
How about I'll go first on that?
There you go.
Mike, look at Mike.
Your category.
He's still.
I know my score, but the hot take. I know it's coming, but then I don't. I just want to have a fresh hot take for
my hot take rolls into my score prediction because my hot take is 60 minutes will not be enough to decide this game. This one's going to overtime. It's going to be Notre Dame 41, Navy 35. The Irish get a key defensive stop on the first possession of overtime. Riley Leonard throws a touchdown pass. 6 points, 41-35. No reason for an extra point. Whoever the point after kicker is this week, whether it's Mitch Jeter or Zach Yoakum. 41-35 final score. Hot take, overtime game in the Meadowlands.
Wow. I like that one. All right, I'm going to go with...
Just going to go with that?
No, yeah, that's not... I'll take that.
Good enough.
No, I'm going to go a little bit different from mine. Hot take, Jack Kaiser forces a turnover. I think we talk about eye discipline. We talk about Navy being a weird defense. Well, he's seen it a couple times. He's prepared for this a couple times. I think he's going to have a big play. I think it's a turnover, INT, fumble, something like that. And my score prediction, I think it's going to be Notre Dame winning this one a little bit easier than an overtime thriller, 35-17 Notre Dame.
There we go. Mike, wrap it up.
Do you know how many lost fumbles Navy has this year? Since you're predicting that?
1.
Probably 1 or
none.
0.
None.
That's why it's a hot take.
That's the hot take.
That's the hot take.
But you didn't express it just that way. But you said take away for Kaiser.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have 2 hot takes. Navy. I don't know who's gonna recover it, but Navy's gonna lose a fumble, and Notre Dame's actually gonna recover it. They've had the darndest time. Mm-hmm. They can get the ball out, but they can't get the ball in. So they've got to. It's gonna happen. The odds are in Notre Dame's favor, and then also double up Leonard Moore. I'm just gonna say this every week. This will be the week Leonard Moore gets his first career interception, and it'll be 35-20 Notre Dame. With a nod to the folks in the desert.
Mike Berardino buying Leonard Moore. He's high on that Leonard. He's got plenty impressive. Of that Leonard Moore stock.
Very impressive.
Leonard Moore.
So that's pot of gold for this week. We will come back in 2 weeks because the Irish will be on a bye after Saturday's game. So will we. Mike will be taking some time off. I'll be taking doing some basketball stuff. Jackson, he'll be reading up on Elmer Layton. I don't know what.
That's the plan.
So, it is Notre Dame and Navy from the Meadowlands. Mike Berardino will be there. I'll be on my couch. Hopefully ABC has the telecast at noon. It is nothing like the 63% that we had to listen to. For Jackson Neal, for Mike Berardino, I'm Tom Noy. This has been Pot of Gold.
This has been the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold podcast, your home for insightful Notre Dame football coverage and analysis.